My name is Duncan Chisholm. I was a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police for 32 years, and when I was stationed in the High Western Arctic, I learned how to do Tufting from Mary First Senior, who was the Indian chief of the community. She told me what to do, and I proceeded to do the Tuftings, and after a couple years her eyesight failed and I started helping her doing them for her. Doing moose hair tuftings, you're using hair, predominantly moose, for your stems and for your flowers. The hair itself was actually cut off in little bundles. So you know when you cut it off in a bundle, the length of the hair is the same. Whereas the hair in the middle of the back is a little longer than the hair on the side. So if you cut it off in bundles, you're going to end up with bunches of hair that are all the same height. Years ago, the natives used rabbit sinew and bird bones, and they made that into their string that they sewed it with, and that was sewed onto their jackets. Now they dyed the hair with raspberries, blueberries, baked apples to get their different colors. And because of in the High Western Arctic, once it got cold, you didn't get any rain, so the natural dyes wouldn't spread onto their clothing. And they would have a potlatch, everybody would get together, and of course the women would be showing off their husband's jacket to everybody else in the tribe. So it was a kind of a show-off piece, and they also did that on the front of their moccasins, and they also did it on their hunting jackets, and they did them on their gun cases. So when we doing tufting, for argument's sake, you'll start off with a drawing. So I take a drawing and I draw it all out in pencil, and then I'll use tape just to go over the drawing, and then I'll pin it onto your velveteen. And your velveteen on the back has jean material, and then I use double-sided tape, and I tape the two together, and then I would take this drawing and I would pin it to the jean material, and then I'd go over it with a pencil, the whole drawing. So then, you'd see the marks in your velveteen. So if I went over with a pencil, and I'd say, okay, I'm gonna do this little flower here. So I just go over the stem with the pencil, and I go over it again, and then I'll get a mark on my velveteen. So then I just take my tracing pencil and just go over the mark with the tracing pencil. So now I know where to sew my moose hair to. So then what I do is do your moose hair first. So you take your moose hair, you take the dark hair out, and you'll take a bunch of hair like this, and I'll hold it together, and I'll just pull out the short hairs. And the reason that we use this the moose hair, it's from a cow moose. And the reason that it's from a cow moose that is better than a bull, the bull is predominantly hair is black. So he's standing up in the timbers, and he doesn't, genetically, there's no reason for him to have light colored hair, because if anything dangerous comes along, he'll run away. But the cow needs a light colored hair so that in the spring, when they have their calves, that they can hide in the grass and not be seen. And that's why I need this hair that's from a cow moose, and predominantly a winter hair, because they lose all their hair in the spring, and by the time December rolls around, the hair is pretty well full grown to its full length in December. So I'll pick out these darker hairs, unless for argument's sake I'll have that many. And I use saliva to moisten up the hair. You have starch in your saliva, which causes the hair to stay together. So I just put a little bit on my fingers, put it together. It'll stick great together. And if I just left that dry like that, it would become quite stiff. So now what I use dental floss, and it's the dental floss that I use is it's not flat, it's kind of round, because if it's flat it doesn't tie the same. So then I'm going to start off on the bottom of my material here. And then you pull it tight. Okay, so then you want to, the distance between each loop is about 1/4 inch. It's 1/4 inch. So if you go higher or longer than 1/4 inch, you'll have a tendency of causing it to buckle. So just pull it tight enough so that it doesn't make a big indentation in the hair. Your hair is hollow, so once you pull it tight, you're gonna crimp the hair, and you just can't fix that again. So it's 1/4 inch. I pull it just snug. I've got it tied off on the bottom, so you don't have to knot it off on the back every time you make a loop. Now we're coming to the split where I had to. So then I'm going to take my needle, kind of work the hair in half, and say, okay, this amount of hair on this side and this amount of hair on this side is pretty well even. And then I'm just going to move it over and just pull it tight, but not too tight. I turn it over. You can take your needle, get a couple strands of cotton with your needle puller, and then put it inside the loop and pull it tight. Now that is not going to come apart. Your hair, when you're doing the caribou hair, always cuts better when it's wet or damp, because your scissors will bite into it and it won't kind of slide off, so you'll get a lot smoother cut. So I'm going to turn around and say, okay, I'm going to do like a different type of a flower. So I just put that in here, and I'll pull that tight, and with my finger here I'm going to pinch that dental floss underneath. I'm going to pinch it, and then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut this hide off. You don't have to cut it all off, just enough that, because you don't want to cut that moose hair, because you can't fix it once you make a mistake. So again, I pull it tight. I'll get two little strands of white hair underneath, right as close to the dental floss that it went in. So now I do it a half hitch basically, and then I'm going to turn around and do it one more time. This will be like a double half hitch. That way it won't come apart. One, two, went through the loop twice, just pull it. You don't have to pull her tight anymore because it's already knotted off in the back. Cut it off, go turn it around. So Well, now I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to make the bottom of the flower. So they're always between one and the other. I said, okay, I'll push down as long as my scissors are flat. Because if you don't have them flat, you're going to get a different shape on your back of your flower. So it's flat. I take it off, snip it off, and I just trim it like that. Then I take my scissors straight up and down, move it in here, nip it off. Do the same thing on the other side. Straight up and down, nip it off, and then I'll round it off. I'll just round it off. Making sure that you keep this material nice and so I cut straight up and down, straight up and down, straight up and down. Now I can keep my scissors flat and just depending on how you want your flower to look. I've been doing Tuftings now for over 30 years, and I enjoy them, and most of my artwork that I do is donated to charity.